Morning everybody, how are y'all doing today? I'm doing great because finally we get to talk about Harman Smith again. Now obviously I've covered Harman plenty of times on my streams, he's pretty much a regular on there. In fact, he was even so kind as to show up one time and that was a lot of fun. But I finally get to make a video on him again. Because as you all know, the Xbox Showcase just happened this Sunday. And it was pretty much universally praised by everybody, including PlayStation fanboys. In fact, my last video was talking about that, which you should go watch after this one. It's doing very well, by the way. Thank you all for the support on that. I appreciate it. But of course, even when we're in like some Twilight Zone, other parallel universe type thing where all the ponies love the Xbox Showcase, in that parallel universe, Harman still hates it. In fact, it reminds me of in Infinity War when Doctor Strange is looking through all the timelines to see how many timelines they win in. Remember how they only win in one timeline? Well, if he were to look through all those timelines for one where Harman actually enjoyed the Xbox Showcase, he just wouldn't find it. Like, I'm actually convinced nothing can appease this guy. At least nothing that Xbox or PlayStation does. But yeah, he hated the Xbox Showcase and he made a video about it. So now I'm making a video about him making a video about it. Oh, also one last thing. I'm gonna be skipping like the first minute of the video because it's him singing some rock and roll song about how every company has failed to kill Nintendo. And for the sake of your eardrums, I'm gonna skip it. But you know what? No, I gotta give you at least a little taste. Here's a quick sample of it. Absolutely beautiful. Truly reminds me of nails on a chalkboard. All right, now without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into this.
So the Xbox Showcase was a load of crap, right? Not surprising anyone, but right now, like, game journals and YouTubers are trying to come out and say it was great. They're probably trying to do a pendulum shift thing, you know, like, the way this typically works is that people realize that Xbox or PlayStation are garbage, and they just switch over to the other one, right? This has been happening since the 90s.
You know what? That's definitely what it is, man. People just out of the blue decided that PlayStation sucks and Xbox is great, which is why people are just completely randomly praising this showcase. It couldn't have been that people actually liked the showcase. I mean, that's impossible. Who would enjoy a non-Nintendo showcase, am I right? Nintendo Direct for the win. But seriously, this logic makes no sense whatsoever. People aren't suddenly switching up on Sony and going back over to Microsoft's side. Sony just hasn't really done anything this year besides Helldivers, and their state of play was absolute garbage, and then Xbox put out a great showcase. This isn't some big conspiracy by journalists and YouTubers. It's called people praise things when they're good, and that Xbox Showcase, that was good. I mean, you had Doom, Black Ops 6, Gears E-Day. Like, even if everything else there was trash, those 3 games alone would make it like a 7 out of 10 or something like that. Hell, maybe even an 8. But let me guess, nobody actually liked any of those franchises, and Nintendo will reign supreme forever.
But now we're in dangerous territory where people are beginning to realize that Nintendo is better than both. And once that happens, there will be no recovery for the gaming sphere, right? Gaming journals have to keep people locked into the 2-console system. They have to keep jumping between PlayStation and Xbox to continue supporting the toxic third-party developers that have been enabling them for the past 30 years. Again,
where are you getting this? People are suddenly realizing Nintendo is better than both. You just said game journalists and YouTubers were switching to Xbox's side, but now all of a sudden they're acknowledging Nintendo is superior, and there's not going to be any recovery for gaming? Like, what are you talking about? Plus, who cares what YouTubers and journalists think? Even if all of them just praise solely Nintendo, that doesn't include the millions of non-YouTubers and game journals who still buy games from everywhere. Because guess what? Most people don't care about the corporation that made the game. They just care about the game itself and whether it's good. And contrary to what you believe, there are non-Nintendo companies that actually make good games. Which is why your little fantasy there is never gonna happen. There's never gonna be a point where every YouTuber, journalist, whoever, just decides, you know what, let's praise Nintendo, they're obviously the best, forget about the other 2 companies. And then, as you said, the gaming industry never recovers. Honestly, it may be just me, but I'm getting vibes right now of those people who say, oh, the world is ending, repent, praise Jesus as your Lord and Savior. He's like, the end of gaming is coming, praise Nintendo now before it's too late. Also, how are journalists keeping people locked into a 2-console system? I'm pretty sure everybody acknowledges that there's 3 consoles. It's just pretty much nobody except for yourself gets a Nintendo console as their main console. And Nintendo isn't exactly trying to compete with Xbox or PlayStation. They're kind of doing their own thing. That's why the whole console war talk is basically just between those 2.
It's all a conspiracy, bro. Like, this has been very well documented. It's real, is what I'm getting at. But
well, there you go. He just straight up said it himself. It's a conspiracy. But apparently it's been very well documented. Would you mind pulling up your sources for that? Because, I mean, if it were so well documented, you'd have some sources to point to, right? No? You got nothing? All right, I didn't think so. He's using the classic trust me bro source, the most reliable of all sources.
Again, there have been a couple of really interesting things in regards to the Xbox Showcase that I do feel like I need to talk about. You know, Doom. Clearly out of ideas, you know? Like, I said this when they made Eternal, right? Like, it really does feel as if the creators have no idea how to proceed going forward.
Oh, hell nah. Is that Doom slander I hear? You get it, because hell nah. Hell, Doom. Boo! You stink! Anyway, I'm honestly starting to think this guy didn't even watch the showcase. In the trailer, they show 2 new weapons, a mech suit, and a dragon you get to fly on. How is that running out of ideas? Now, I'll say this, I didn't think Doom could get any better than Eternal, but once again, they figured out a way to do it. But I guess introducing brand new stuff means you're out of ideas. Again, I don't even think he watched the trailer. I've played Doom 2016 and Eternal. There sure as hell wasn't a chainsaw shield that you could throw and have returned to you in those games. And you definitely couldn't box titans in a mech suit. You're allowed to not like the Doom games, but don't try to say they're out of ideas when the trailer was full of new things. Because at that point, you're just being dishonest. Then again, I mean, what else am I expecting from Harman? You know what? My bad. My expectations were too high.
Right, like Doom Eternal felt nothing like classic Doom, and the Dark Ages seems even more of a regression. Right, it just seems even less like Doom than it was before. And I keep getting flack for saying this, but Doom is an IP that really has lost its identity and really has no business continuing to be made and supported.
Are you actually kidding me right now? You cannot be serious. I'm convinced he has to be a troll at this point. There's no way he isn't. How has Doom lost its identity? An example of a game that did lose its identity was Halo, because with Halo 4 they tried to make it Call of Duty, and then Halo 5 the story just sucked. But Doom definitely has not lost its identity. It's just evolved. Like, I'm genuinely curious, how does he think Doom has lost its identity? Also, you know what? No, I just realized he has to be making this up, because I remember he was giving at least Doom 2016 a lot of praise, but now suddenly it's lost its identity and it shouldn't be supported anymore. Last I checked, Doom is still the same thing that it was in the 90s. You're just a dude with a lot of weapons killing a bunch of demons. The biggest change to Doom over the years has been the graphics, in that they've gotten better, obviously. And then, of course, added movement and all that stuff. Whatever, point is, Doom still has its identity, and I'm glad they're continuing to make more. They very easily could have ended with Eternal, because that is the end of the Slayer's journey. Thankfully, there's plenty of prequel content for Doom.
Right, like, I was so frustrated with the sheer amount of people who try and tell you that Doom Eternal, and even Doom 2016, were great games, some of the best we've gotten in recent years, when in reality, they're nothing special and nothing worth talking about.
Nah, dude, this slander's getting out of hand. You have given Doom 2016 praise before. Was your brain just not working properly that day and you meant to dislike it or something? I honestly don't know. But yes, Doom and Doom Eternal are 2 of the best shooters ever made. And arguably 2 of the best games ever made in general. And God, I hope Dark Ages lives up to them. I'm so flabbergasted he thinks they're not even anything special. Like, I know it's your opinion, but your opinion is wrong. Hit like if you get that reference.
I greatly dislike the hype and enthusiasm these games get. But anyway, that has been a commonly stated opinion of mine. People know this, like how I feel about Doom. What do I feel about Perfect Dark? Right, because this is an interesting IP. Started on Nintendo hardware.
Of course, he's only interested in Perfect Dark because it started on Nintendo consoles. Why am I not surprised? But just note for the rest of the video, there's actually like 5 or 6 minutes left in Harman's video, but I'm cutting most of it out because a lot of it is him rambling about Perfect Dark Zero, but it's like not connected to the showcase whatsoever. So I'm just leaving in the parts that I can actually talk about. This is a common occurrence with Harman. Half the video has nothing to do with the title. I mean, if you're gonna make a terrible video, at least stick to the subject.
Rareware, you know, one of the last great N64 games, you know, better than Halo Combat Involved, right? You know, Perfect Dark was an interesting game because it really showcases just how Halo destroyed the FPS genre. Because we went from, like, cool, innovative, creative level design and mechanics in FPS games, with Perfect Dark, to some of the most generic, uninspired slop imaginable 9 months later in Halo.
I mean, I guess by today's standards, Combat Evolved is generic. But I'm just gonna say right now, Combat Evolved and Perfect Dark actually have a lot of similarities. The biggest difference I've noticed is that Perfect Dark just tends to be faster, and you get a few gadgets, but pacing aside, they seem pretty similar, at least in terms of the gameplay. Then again, I guess I can't speak on that quite as much because I actually haven't played Perfect Dark. Fun fact, I was born almost exactly 2 years after Combat Evolved came out. But putting that aside, like, bro, you can't be serious. You did not just say that Halo ruined the FPS genre. I said it before, but I'll say it again. He has to be trolling. Halo is arguably one of the games that brought the FPS genre to life, especially with online multiplayer in Halo 2. And I just gotta ask, for anybody out there who has played Perfect Dark and Halo Combat Evolved, what did Combat Evolved do so different and so wrong compared to Perfect Dark that it ended up destroying the entire FPS genre, even though the best FPS games came after Halo Combat Evolved, and first-person shooters are some of the most popular games on the planet. Damn, guys, I can't believe Halo destroyed the entire FPS genre. How could Microsoft do this?
Right. The original Perfect Dark is an absolute classic, and it's often overlooked purely because Halo came onto the scene on a new console, like, not long after its release, right? Objectively speaking, Perfect Dark is better, with much more interesting mechanics. It respects your intelligence more.
Again, I have to ask, to anybody who has played Perfect Dark and Combat Evolved, is there anything Perfect Dark does objectively better? Because Harman's claiming that Perfect Dark is objectively better, and I'd just like to know how exactly. I mean, yeah, gadgets are cool and everything, but I don't think that makes a game objectively better. Oh, wait, you know what? I just realized it's because the game was on a Nintendo console, so it's automatically objectively better. My mistake. Also, yeah, I'm sure Perfect Dark is an absolute classic, but you know what else is? You're not gonna like this answer, but it's Halo Combat Evolved.
The problem was not the women in gaming. The problem was Microsoft not knowing how to manage a company they had acquired, right? And history repeats itself. We're seeing that happen more and more with all these other games that are getting announced. Fable and Dragon Age and everything else. Like,
I just love that he says Fable and Dragon Age, and then he just doesn't have anything else, so he just goes to take a sip of water. And by the way, Dragon Age is made by BioWare and published by EA, who have no connection to Microsoft whatsoever, so I don't even know why you brought them up as an example. Now, don't get me wrong, Microsoft has mismanaged their fair share of studios, but BioWare is not one of them.
None of this looks good. And yet, like, right now, you're seeing people, like, refuse to acknowledge it. They're doing everything in their power to try and pretend this was a great showcase and that Xbox is going to save gaming, but in reality, this is yet another disappointment in a long line of disappointments.
Okay, nobody, and I repeat, nobody, except for the most extreme Xbots out there, are claiming Xbox is going to save gaming. They've got some great games coming up, don't get me wrong, but you would be a fool to say they're gonna save gaming as a whole. Especially since, gaming doesn't really need saving. Maybe AAA specifically, but as a whole, no. But I just love the logic, oh, I didn't like the showcase, therefore everybody else is pretending to like it. I'm starting to wonder, is Harman the most delusional person I've ever talked about? Because he's against some fierce competition. I mean, you got JTech and X-Fault sitting right there, so I don't know, I guess I'd have to think about it. But regardless, we did it, we're done, finally, it's over. Thank God. You know how if you're like around sick people, you're probably gonna get sick less because your immune system will be like built up more? Well, I kind of feel the same way about Harman's videos in the sense that I used to cover them often enough to the point where I was like immune to the brain rot, but since it's been so long since we last talked about him, I'm just not used to it. So my brain has officially melted. So I guess I'm gonna go pour my brain liquid into a mold and try to reshape it. So yeah, anyway, with all that being said, that's gonna do it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Like the video if you liked it, dislike if you didn't like it, subscribe if you want to see more. Join us every Friday night for Salt Streams, 9 p.m. Eastern, and I will catch you all next time.